Thanks for inviting us in. It's now 11 o'clock, and we want to begin tonight with the city of Fishers putting a limit on the number of rental homes in neighborhoods. All of this comes as state lawmakers are now trying to limit city's ability to do just that. Alex Almanza is in Fishers tonight with a reaction from neighbors.
The Fishers City Council voted unanimously to put a cap on the number of rental homes in neighborhoods, a decision that has sparked numerous debates. But as the ordinance gets put into effect, there's been a lot of opposition and support.
A proposal was brought forth to the Carmel City Council Monday by Fishers Mayor Scott Fadness, who says Fishers homeowners are concerned about the number of homes in his city that are owned by companies and people who don't live in them.
It's one thing to build a great city, it's quite another thing to maintain a great city. That it's not just a snapshot in time, but it lives on not just today, tomorrow, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years into the future.
The proposal now requires all single-family rentals to register with the city. They would be limited to 10% of the homes in a community. However, any rentals existing prior to December 31st will be grandfathered in.
We've seen over the past few years tons of large corporate rental companies and private equity investors come to Fishers and all of Hamilton County and scoop up homes with cash, which is not allowing, first-time home buyers, for example, to purchase homes.
Meanwhile, opponents of the ordinance are left disappointed in the unanimous vote.
You've definitely changed the landscape and made it much more difficult for people looking to rent here because you've taken an option off the table. You're going to increase rents, and you're really dictating the conditions of who can live here and under what conditions.
Chris Pryor, a real estate industry advocate, says the talk of renters being, quote, bad for neighborhoods is only doing harm.
The city already has tools in place to address those concerns. The city just simply needs to enforce the tools it already has in place.
Going forward, advocates for the rental cap are hopeful that the keys get handed back to homeowners.
Maybe some of those neighborhoods can heal, and when I say heal, I mean get back to having mostly homeowners and put that cap on those rental properties.
Meanwhile, the Carmel City Council introduced a similar proposal on Monday, and it leaves a lot of questions behind, including if ordinances like this will stick or if state lawmakers will have the final say. In Fishers, Alex Almanza, 13 News.
So as Alex mentioned, this may all come down to state lawmakers. It certainly is on their radar right now. They just introduced an amendment to a bill that would block cities from putting these kinds of rental limits into effect. House Bill 1389 would also prevent communities from passing rules on what kinds of vehicles or equipment people could buy. A man is dead tonight at 11 after a shooting at a Nora apartment complex. I want to show you the scene around 6:30. This is in the hub at Nora Apartments near 86th and College. Right now, police are telling us they detained a person of interest, but they did not elaborate on who that person is and what may have led to that shooting. And now to a crime in southern Indiana that you sort of have to see to believe. Video shows a person wearing a motorcycle helmet and waving an object at a police officer. That object appears to be a sword, all before the person gets into the officer's SUV and then takes off. State police tell us the officer shot the suspect at least one time. Now backing up, this started as a call about reckless driving in Warwick County this morning. Investigators say the driver eventually crashed into a ditch after refusing to stop for police. So that's what led to this confrontation with the suspected sword. The events coming as a shock to witnesses.
It just turned wild from there, and then he went around, got in the cop car and took off. I never expected it to turn into what it was, or a guy to get out wearing a helmet and get a sword after a cop and take his car.
Police say they tracked the suspect in the officer's SUV into Kentucky. There was another crash, this one in a field. The driver tried running away but was ultimately taken into custody. Investigators tonight say the person was bleeding heavily from several gunshot wounds to the chest. They were taken to the hospital for treatment. New tonight at 11, Indiana State Police now giving us fresh insight into a multi-county chase that ended with a deadly crash right here in Indianapolis. All of this comes after investigators reviewed evidence and talked with witnesses. Now, as we reported, Henry County Sheriff John Sproles started the chase earlier this month after he says he saw someone driving recklessly in Newcastle. Then he followed the SUV onto I-70 toward Indy, then state police got involved. Troopers tell us an officer deployed stop sticks near Greenfield, but it didn't stop the SUV, and Sheriff Sproles called for his deputies to end the chase. State police continued to follow the SUV onto Post Road before they stopped that pursuit. Now, investigators have now determined the SUV was going 89 miles an hour when it hit a car at the intersection of Washington and Midhofer. A deputy in Henry County, still in the area, happened to find the aftermath of the crash. One person in the SUV died, 3 others were injured. Last week, police arrested a 38-year-old man at his home here in Indianapolis. Rob?
Well, we're looking at temperatures that are really cooling down. Some locations cooling down more dramatically than others because some of you have more clear skies than others. More 40s showing up on the board. Crawfordsville was just at 47. You've actually ticked back up. And on a night like this, I expect a good bit of variability in the temperatures. So even though I have 46 on the board here with clear skies and winds calming down a bit, you may be either side of that, maybe 5 to almost 8 degrees or so. Then tomorrow, the warm up begins. Plenty of sunshine, temperatures close to 75 for many of you. Don't worry, we'll get to 80 later this week. I'll show you the numbers in the 7-day. Scott?
The bells at the Basilica on the campus of Notre Dame toll in honor of Pope Francis. The pontiff died on Easter Monday at the age of 88. Pope Francis presided over the Catholic Church for more than a dozen years. The faithful from around the world tonight honoring his work and mourning his loss. Tonight, NBC's Molly Hunter is in the Vatican, where plans are now in place to honor Pope Francis and choose his successor.
As soon as the news of Pope Francis's death was announced, cardinals from around the world have started making their way here to Vatican City. Now, tomorrow will be the first meeting of cardinals. Not all the cardinals will have made their way to town by then, but the first meeting of the cardinals who are in town. And the papal funeral is expected to be held within 4 to 6 days, and on the agenda in the next couple of days will be the exact date of that funeral, and you can bet that will be on the agenda in the meeting tomorrow. Now, as far as the funeral details, Pope Francis during his life designed a lot of them. This is not going to be a huge state splashy funeral. This will be a pared back funeral, a simpler funeral, a streamlined funeral for a pastor, something more humble than what we've seen in the past. And he's made some of the changes. For example, tonight Francis's body was placed in a single coffin made of wood and zinc, not the traditional trio of coffins of his predecessor. Now, he could be moved actually as early as Wednesday to lie in state in St. Peter's Basilica. And another change, he will not be buried in the Vatican grottos. Instead, he's chosen a different basilica in Rome, Santa Maria Maggiore, a basilica in the center of Rome. It was very close to his heart. He visited often. And then the attention turns to electing a new pope, the secret, mysterious process known as a conclave. It will happen in 15 to 20 days from today, from the pope's death. And as the cardinals come into town, more and more general congregations will happen. There will be formal meetings and informal conversations as well. And then, of course, they're sealed inside the Sistine Chapel. Voting will begin. Black smoke, as we know, once the ballots are burned, means no pope, and white smoke means a new pope has been chosen.
The Indianapolis Archdiocese just announced a Mass for Pope Francis. It'll take place noon on Thursday, and it'll be celebrated by Archbishop Charles Thompson at Saints Peter and Paul Cathedral here in downtown Indianapolis. So we want to flash back tonight nearly a decade. It was the Pope's first visit to the United States. Hundreds of Hoosiers traveled to D.C. and Philadelphia for a chance to connect with the pontiff. David Delecca was among them, saying Francis was humble and kind.
He was a pope concentrated on showing the world love, caring for the most vulnerable. Could see his love for the people, during our visit. Just someone that truly cares for each human soul.
Many of the people from across Indiana who made that trip tell us they still talk about those moments, experiences they say they will never forget. Pope Francis also honored tonight at the University of Notre Dame. We heard those bells toll at the Basilica of the Sacred Heart. School leaders and professors say the impact of Pope Francis cannot be overstated.
That this is a person who can change the world and has spent this time changing the world and has profoundly changed it for me. At the same time, the leader of 1 billion Catholics around the world, someone who speaks to kings and the leaders of other major religions, and yet so humble at the same time. His was an elderly man, a man who was dealing with a lot of illness and infirmity, and yet he kept going.
Former Indiana Senator Joe Donnelly worked with Pope Francis when Donnelly was serving as the U.S. ambassador to the Holy See. Donnelly appeared on the Today Show this morning to talk about that time. He shared some of his memories of the lighter moments with the pontiff.
He was very funny. He loved soccer. He loved Argentinian soccer. When we went to see him as I was leaving Rome to come back home, we have a little granddaughter, and he went up to her and he looked, smiled, opened his hand, and it was filled with candy, and he laughed. I mean, he was a very, very kind soul, but what people don't always know.
Our coverage of the death of Pope Francis will continue over on WTHR+. There you can see more from that 2015 trip to the U.S., plus countless stories about his legacy. We'll also be monitoring the process to name his successor. Just download our free streaming app to watch it all right on your TV.